A woman is in the bathroom of restaurant Hooters, complaining to her friend that it's her first date after her divorce and the man brought her to a restaurant that is known for the waitresses. The woman's name is Lauren Reynolds. She's a middle-aged woman who has two hectic sons, Tyler and Brendan, and has recently been through a divorce. The man she's on a date with is Jim Friedman, and different from Lauren. His wife passed away and he's finally starting to go on dates again after 20 years. At first glance, Lauren and Jim are very different. Lauren is put together and she has a successful career as a closet organizer, while Jim is more of a hot mess and scrambling to hold himself together. He also has kids, though they are 3 girls, Hillary, Espen and Louise. The date isn't going well, and not only because Jim invited Lauren to go to Hooters, but he can barely maintain eye contact with her, and he orders for her without asking what she wants. To make everything even more awkward, the waitresses all know Jim since he goes there very often, and Jim offends Lauren by asking ignorant questions about her job. When he notices she's upset and not enjoying the date at all, he apologizes and says that he hasn't been on a date in many years, but Lauren understands because she has also not been on a date since she married in college. After figuring out they have something in common, Lauren gets a bit more excited to get to know Jim, and it lasts a total of 20 seconds before she eats hot sauce and almost chokes with how hot it is. It's frustrating for her that she's going through such a humiliating situation and she takes it out on Jim. She sarcastically asks which bad reason his wife chose to leave him and Jim says cancer. It all goes downhill after that. Jim receives an obviously fake call about an avalanche in his house and leaves Lauren wide-mouthed after paying $20 for his half of the bill. Next day, Lauren complains to her friend Jen about the failure of a date, and how Jim used the emergency escape move on her, as if he needed to get away from her, not the other way around. They are organizing the closet of a rich woman and Jen suggests Lauren try on a classic black dress that she's certain will make her look amazing. When she tries the dress on, it really looks great, which makes Lauren think that she should have dressed like that during her marriage. Then maybe her husband wouldn't have cheated on her. Now, she has to deal with her kids asking her to go back to their father, not knowing what he's done. Moving on to Jim, he also complains about the date to his friend Doug that there was no connection between him and Lauren, and that she dressed like a prude. Jim says that he's not ready to date again and he prefers to take care of his daughters. Hillary, his oldest daughter, a teenager who wants to spend her life more like the other kids her age, appears and complains to her dad that she isn't excited to go camping for spring break again. At Lauren's house, her oldest son, Brendan, asks if she went on a date and Lauren denies it. Then, her ex-husband, Mark, appears at the house to drop her other son off. Mark is a sarcastic, laid-back man who almost doesn't see his kids after the divorce. He likes to push Lauren's buttons and make her doubt her personality and guilt trips her into thinking that he cheated because of her. Meanwhile, Jim is also having some trouble with his daughters, especially the oldest, Hillary. Hillary is a tomboy teenager who wants to be more feminine, and she thinks that to do that, she needs bigger, so she stuffs her bra with insoles. Jim catches her doing it and it's embarrassing for both of them. Jim doesn't know how to connect with her. He doesn't know what it is like to be a teenage girl growing up, so he always fumbles interacting with her. And his other daughter, Espen. Espen is also a bit of a tomboy, and she's more of a loner. She likes talking to her deceased mother about girl stuff all the time, which worries Jim. His youngest, Louise, is the easier one to deal with, only because she's still a small girl. Lauren is also having issues with her kids, mainly because their deadbeat dad isn't present in their life and she doesn't know how to deal with teenage boys and puberty. Her ex doesn't even go to Tyler's baseball game, which angers Lauren because she sees Tyler sad that his father is not there watching him play, and sadly, her presence is not enough. To make her life even more complicated, Mark promised to take them on vacation during spring break for a nice trip, but he canceled out of the blue, leaving Lauren alone to work and look after them. A couple of days after their horrible date, Jim and Lauren meet again at a Jim is there to buy Hillary tampons, and Lauren is there to buy Brendan a new magazine because she ripped his. Lauren glimpses Jim buying the tampons and tries to hide, but he sees her too and approaches her in the magazine station. Jim doesn't even remember Lauren's name, and Lauren calls him Mr. Hooters. They talk a bit and Lauren explains her situation, so Jim helps her out to find the right magazine for her son. Then he also asks for her help in buying tampons for Hillary. At that moment they realize they have more in common than they imagined. They even have the same minivan. The only problem is that they can't spend an hour without picking on each other. The next day, Lauren has to give the bad news to her kids, that their dad won't be able to take them on the trip he promised. The kids are upset and they take it out on Lauren, complaining about having to spend a week with her at home. They are interrupted by Jim, who is there because back at the they accidentally took each other's cards, and he wants his back. Lauren's sons open the door thinking it's their dad, and when they see Jim there, they get mad because they think Lauren is dating him and betraying their dad. While Jim is there waiting for Lauren to give his card back and they are arguing back and forth, Jen, Lauren's friend, arrives in a whirlwind saying that she broke up with her rich boyfriend, Rick, because she found out he has 4 kids. They were supposed to go on a non-refundable trip to Africa, but Jen isn't interested anymore. Turns out Rick is Jim's boss, and as he hears Jen saying that the trip is non-refundable, he has an idea. He wants to buy Rick's vacation to take his daughters there for spring break. Of course, Lauren has the same idea and buys Jen's part, so a day or so later, they arrive in South Africa with their families. The hotel they are staying at is amazing, and Lauren kids are really excited about the trip. It's not even an hour until Lauren sees Jim with his daughters and they get into an argument as soon as they see each other. Their children also don't have a good first impression of each other, especially Brendan and Hillary. Because they bought the same vacation package, the children will all stay in the same room, a huge room made especially for big families, so everyone fits. As for Lauren and Jim, they will have to share an ensuite with a big heart-shaped bed and scented candles, all very romantic and spicy. Obviously, they decide to each take a room with their families, and Lauren ends up with the romantic room. During lunch, Jim and his family meet Eddie Warnick, his wife Ginger, and his son Jake. Jake is a cute boy, so Hillary has a crush immediately upon seeing him. They all sit together to eat, and a few moments later, Lauren appears with her family. When Brendan tries to sit on an empty chair next to Espen, she stops him by saying that her mother is sitting there. Lauren notices that the girl misses her mom and tells Brendan to sit someplace else. Jim covertly thanks her for not mentioning anything in front of everyone. While they are having lunch, they find out that the hotel is made for blended families, and there are many activities for the children, teenagers, and for the adults. At night, while the children are having fun with people their age, the adults are alone. Jim is in a boat in a lake with couples kissing and having a good time all around him. Lauren is taking care of her children like always. Next morning, the children don't wake up to go sightseeing with their parents, so Lauren and Jim are alone again. They meet at the breakfast bar and talk about their plans for the day. For the first time, they don't exchange sarcastic words or make fun of each other. Later on, Jim is spending some time with Hillary playing basketball when she sees her crush, Jake, and feels self-conscious. She tries to act more girly while playing, and Jake finds it funny until Jim embarrasses her in front of everyone. Hillary storms out crying in frustration with her dad and his lack of understanding. Throughout the day, whenever Lauren meets Jim with one of their kids with them, they help each other out, Jim with the boys and Lauren with the girls. Little Louise seems taken with Lauren and even calls her pretty when Lauren is cleaning the hideous makeup Jim used on her. As for Jim, he has a great time riding an ostrich with Tyler, which makes Lauren mad with worry. But when Tyler comes off of it, he hugs Lauren and thanks her for taking him on the trip. Lauren is so glad that her son is happy that she begrudgingly thanks Jim while flipping him off, of course. In the following scene, Lauren notices Hillary watching Jake and goes to talk to her to give her advice. Hillary tells Lauren that boys usually think she's also a boy because of her haircut. Lauren says Hillary has a beautiful face, she only needs to polish her looks a little to look more feminine. She invites Hillary to go to the saloon with her, and Hillary excitedly says yes. On their way to the saloon, while they are talking, Lauren finds out that Jim's former wife used to work at the Hooters, so that's probably why he went there so often, and why the waitresses knew him so well. Not exactly what she imagined on their date. In the evening, they are all having dinner together when Lauren offers fruits to Espen and says she brought some to her mother too. Espen is touched that she respected her mother instead of thinking she is crazy. Jim watches Lauren interact with Espen with new eyes. She's not the stuck-up woman he thought she was. Eddie and Ginger ask how they met, and Lauren replies that it was on a blind date at the Hooters. Then, instead of bad-mouthing the restaurant, now that she knows about Jim's wife, she says it was a nice place with good service. Jim finds it strange that she changed her tune so suddenly but doesn't mention it. His attention goes somewhere else when Hillary appears with longer hair, wearing a dress and heels, completely different from her usual looks, though she looks way happier if the big smile on her face is anything to go by. Lauren is proud of her. Jake stares at her with a starstruck expression because she looks gorgeous. Jim, on the other hand, is speechless for a moment. His tomboy daughter is now girly and grown up in a way that is uncomfortable to him, especially when Jake asks her to grab a bite with him. When they leave, Jim glares daggers at Lauren until she notices and asks what's wrong with him. He angrily replies that he doesn't recognize his daughter, and he yells at her that taking care of Hillary is his job because she's his kid. His outburst is so awkward and unnecessary that everyone leaves the table so that the two of them can talk alone. Lauren explains that it was obvious Hillary wasn't happy with her looks and horrible clothes that only made people think she was a boy. Jim retorts that his wife was also a tomboy when she was that age and he didn't mind. It's clear that he's projecting on his kids and trying to keep his wife's memory alive by making his daughters her miniatures. In turn, Lauren is surprised to learn that Jim knew his wife when they were only kids. Jim had a crush on his wife and they eventually dated, though Jim says he has no idea why because he was weird. Talking about the past breaks the ice between them, and they even laugh about how strange they were as kids, until Jim apologizes for yelling at Lauren and Lauren also apologizes to Jim. For the rest of the trip, the families blend and start doing everything together, going on the safari, dancing, and overall having a great time. Jim even lets Hillary hang out with Jake after his talk with Lauren, and Hillary is happier than ever. The only one that doesn't seem completely happy is Jim. He watches his kids growing up and having the time of their lives and feels a deep nostalgia and sadness. There's nothing he can do to stop them from growing, but he can enjoy his time with them. Lauren is also trying to let go of her need for control, and she even goes parasailing, though she almost dies in the process. In the evening, Jim and Lauren plan to have a massage, not knowing that it's a couple massage. When they get to the barrack, they only see couples holding hands and massaging each other in a very sensual way. They try to use excuses to leave, but the instructor doesn't let them, so they are obligated to sit in front of each other wearing only robes and holding hands. Jim starts doing a heavy massage that hurts Lauren, but the instructor interrupts and tells him to be soft. They are all awkward in the beginning, especially Jim, who doesn't know where to put his hands. He watches the other couples moaning and relaxing together and decides to give it a go. Softly, he massages Lauren's shoulders and she starts moaning, which makes Jim nervous, so he cracks a joke about doing all the work. The instructor tells the women to start rubbing the men's ears, so while Jim rubs her shoulders, Lauren rubs his earlobes. Despite their awkwardness, they have fun cracking jokes to each other. At the end of the massage session, when they are returning to their tents, they stop to talk for a bit before they go to sleep. They silently stare at each other for some time until Jim breaks the silence by saying she was very nice. They are interrupted by Louise, who asks if Lauren can put her to bed. She insists until Jim accepts it. Lauren carefully tucks her to bed and Louise asks if she can rub her head so that she can have good dreams and to sing to her. Lauren starts singing a song that Louise's mom used to sing to her, and the little girl starts singing along. Louise isn't the only one listening to the song. Hillary and Espen also hear it. Hillary smiles softly, remembering her mom, but Espen looks worried. Jim also hears Lauren singing and he gets emotional. Before leaving the tent after Louise sleeps, Lauren kisses Espen, who is pretending to be asleep, and when Lauren leaves, she smiles. Lauren meets Jim outside, and in order to break the emotional moment they were having in the tent, he scares the life out of her and Lauren stomps away. Next day, it's time for Jim to do something nice for Lauren's kids. He helps Tyler to play baseball correctly and even teaches him to not throw a tantrum and to respect the sport. Tyler is really excited when he can finally pitch the ball and tells Jim that maybe if he's good enough, his father will finally watch his games. Brendan appears, suddenly mad at Jim for trying to teach his brother something that his father should have done. Brendan feels that if his mom starts to go out seriously with Jim, he will replace his father in their lives. Although he seems like a laid-back kid, he still feels the pain and confusion that a divorce brings to a child, and he wants to take it out on Jim. Jim takes him boxing so Brendan can vent, and after a couple of hits on Jim, he seems less angry. When they are back with Lauren, she asks what they did during the day. Tyler tells her how Jim helped him out with baseball, and Brendan says that Jim took him boxing, and he knocked him out after a couple of hits. Lauren is glad that Jim did the things that she couldn't do with her kids. While she's getting ready to go out for the night, she finds a gift box from Jen with the beautiful black classic dress she wore at one of her clients' houses, and that made her feel sexy. Lauren wears it for dinner, and when she shows up, everyone is shocked by her beauty, especially Jim. He stares at her as if she's the most beautiful woman in the world, and it's like falling in love at first sight. Jim tells her she looks very nice. The kids all go out to another place to have their own fun and leave the grown-ups in the dining hall. Couples start dancing while Jim and Lauren awkwardly watch. They want to go too, but neither have the courage to say something. Instead, Jim is informed by one of the staff at the hotel that his stargazing experience is ready. He invites Lauren, and when they reach the place, it's actually a very romantic gazebo where they can have dinner alone. Lauren thinks that Rick was the one to set up the whole thing for Jen, but it was actually Jim. He wanted them to have a real date, one that is only for them, without the shadow of Jim's wife or Lauren's divorce hovering. Lauren is impressed with Jim's moves. Now it's really a date. Lauren thanks Jim for helping Tyler out with baseball, and Jim tells her she's a great mom. They talk some more about parenthood, and they once again are surprised by how much they have in common. It's the moment of truth. They are getting closer and Lauren is ready to kiss Jim. Their lips are almost touching when Jim suddenly pulls back, saying that he can't do it. It completely ruins the mood. Lauren is embarrassed by the blatant rejection and Jim tries to fix it and apologize, to no avail. Things are awkward again. Now it's even worse because Lauren thought they could go somewhere. Not willing to go through another failure of a date, she leaves Jim there alone. They go back to the US, and Lauren tells Jen about the fiasco with Jim. Jen is back with Rick, so at least one of them is not completely hopeless when it comes to love. Meanwhile, Hillary asks Jim when they are going to see Lauren again, and as Jim tries to answer her, he accidentally says that he's in love with Lauren. Hillary and Louise are really happy that his dad will give Lauren a chance. Jim dresses up in a suit, buys Lauren flowers, and goes to her house to surprise her. The whole way he practices what he's going to say to her when he sees her again. Unfortunately for Jim, the person who answers the door is definitely not Lauren, but her ex-husband. At first he thinks he is at the wrong house, but then Tyler appears behind his father and excitedly greets Jim. Tyler suggests they play baseball while waiting for Lauren. He leaves Jim and Mark alone again, and Jim tells Mark that his kids are incredible. Mark replies that he knows and that's why he and Lauren were trying to make things work between them. It's a bath of cold water for Jim, standing there all dressed up, holding flowers, in front of the ex of the woman he fell for. He leaves the house, but before he reaches his car, he hears Tyler ask his father if they can play even if Jim isn't playing anymore. His father's phone rings and he leaves poor Tyler alone, staring at Jim while he walks away. While driving back home, he passes Lauren and doesn't even realize. When Lauren arrives home, she's surprised to see Mark standing there as if he owns the place. He starts hitting on her, much to her shock. Mark starts reminiscing about their life and even pretends the flowers Jim brought her were his. He tries to kiss her but Lauren pushes him away. Then, when he tries harder, she finally rejects him for good. Back at Jim's place, he enters Espen's room while she's sleeping to put the laundry away. Espen wakes with the noise and tells him that she talked to her mom before going to bed. Her mom told her that she has too many things to do and won't be able to be with them as often anymore. Jim is relieved that his daughter is moving on from her coping mechanism after her mom's death. Espen starts crying that she didn't want her mom to go, and Jim answers that her mother will never leave her, neither will he. They hug tightly and Espen tells Jim that her mother loved the trip to Africa and that she misses her. Jim tells her that her mother is there with her, but Espen corrects him by saying that it's Lauren she missed. Lauren is the first mother figure she and her sisters had since their mother passed away. Jim replies that he misses her too, and then continues to comfort Espen. Next day, after her kids go to school, Lauren receives a surprise visit in a white minivan, Jim's car. She thinks it's him and gets really excited about seeing him again. But it's just Jen with her new car. Although she's happy to see her friend blending in so well with Rick's family, Lauren's crushed that Jim didn't come looking for her. The day of Tyler's baseball game arrives and as always, Lauren is there cheering for him. To no one's surprise, his dad doesn't show up. Tyler is sad that his dad is a no-show again. And this time even Brendan is upset. Without his dad there to support him, Tyler gets nervous again and misses the first pitch. He forgets all that Jim has taught him during their trip. Before he can pitch again, they are all surprised by Jim and his daughter's appearance. They start cheering up for Tyler, and Tyler's mood takes a 180-degree shift. He's not downtrodden anymore, even when he misses the second pitch. Jim starts screaming words of encouragement to him and reminds him of what he needs to do. Tyler follows Jim's advice and the third time the ball comes swinging at him, he hits it. It's so surprising that everyone starts screaming at him to run, until he makes a home run. When the game ends, Lauren approaches Jim and he tells her about the day he went to her house and how sad Tyler was when his dad brushed him off. He also says he understands that she and Mark are trying to work things out again, but Lauren vehemently disagrees. She mischievously asks what he was doing at her house and Jim finally admits that he went there to tell her that he's okay to have what he wants with her. When they are close to kissing again, Lauren stops him, saying that she can't do it. Jim is confused until she starts laughing at him and they finally kiss. Their kids all watch with smiles on their faces, hopeful that they will all be a big blended family.